Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Ewan.
Hello, Scott.
Hello, son. Now, it seems like all sorts of things are kicking off left, right, and centre in regards to Warner Brothers selling their gaming division for like $4 billion. What have you found out so far?
Apart from AT&T being just the maddest people on the planet, they've controlled everything, and now they're like, well, give a little bit of the control away to someone. We're not happy being... I mean, they probably are happy being Disney 2.0. But yeah, it was reported midway through June, aka last month, that AT&T were looking to sell Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, aka WB Games, aka Warner Brothers' basic publishing arm for video games and interactive media, which in itself involves all sorts of different studios, such as the obvious ones like WB Games Montreal, who are obviously working on a Batman game and are doing all sorts of different things with DC IP. Monolith, who did all the Lord of the Rings stuff. Then you have as well Rocksteady Studios in London, and then of course NetherRealm as well, who obviously do Mortal Kombat. So that's a big get of talent for whoever actually ends up investing in that. And last month it was reported that the likes of Take-Two Interactive, who obviously own that is Rockstar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interactive. Yeah, absolutely. EA and Activision Blizzard were the evil, sinister organs playing in the background.
That's the thing. Like, if you look at the people that are the prospective buyers right now, like Microsoft are the latest ones to sort of like flag and go, we want to be in there too. Like, in comparison to everyone else, they are actually the ones I would trust the most with this. Although I'm never up for conglomerate ownership of any sort of like body of IPs. I still think that like, if you're going to give it to anybody, I think that Microsoft will do a better job with it, will treat it better than the likes of EA, Take-Two, or Blizzard. But where did you come down on that initial thing?
I mean, yeah, to be fair, so they're looking at the sales price between $2 to $4 billion, which is just mental money. And obviously, the IP that's tied up with those studios, it's not necessarily that'll be the case if anyone were to buy these studios. That wouldn't necessarily mean they'd be getting all the IP with it. So your likes of your Batmans, your DC Comics, your Lord of the Rings, the fantasy series with the bespectacled child that we can't talk about because it's really bad. And then, of course, Mortal Kombat as well, which I think belongs to NetherRealm. I think if you were going to make that sale, I think that would go with them, given literally their entire logo and identity and brand is built around Mortal Kombat.
So yeah, one thing to talk about here, it's obviously at this point there's the base information that's out there that they're looking to sell, that Microsoft are an interested party, and all these other companies are also interested parties, and then various different websites, including what we're about to talk about, have attempted to speculate on how the how the different IP side of it breaks down, because that is it seems to be all over the place. It's like based on different IPs that are created in-house, like you said, Mortal Kombat belongs to NetherRealm, originated with Midway, but Midway, when they fell apart, NetherRealm were then resurrected by Warner Brothers, so that's like an in-house IP, versus these other ones that Warner Brothers have licensed to themselves or can license out to other people. And so different sites have already ran with, if this deal goes through, how many of these IPs will literally now belong to the new party, versus them still being like licensed out kind of thing. It seems like a big old mess.
It's very confusing for someone like me who knows nothing about contract law or like any like IP management or anything like that. But yeah, the latest report came from The Information, which I think is a great name for a website that delivers news and information, just the information in all caps. They basically said that Microsoft's interest is confirmed now, so they are interested in acquiring Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, which would be a huge get for them. Obviously, you just talked about how of all the different people that could buy these studios, you'd feel more comfortable with Microsoft doing it. And my inner PlayStation fanboy within me is going, no, don't do that, because I want to have Spider-Man, I want to have Batman, I want to have all the DC Comics characters, I want everything. The thought that potentially, you just mentioned that, any sale wouldn't necessarily mean that all the IP would go with them. However, I would speculate that any company or any prospective buyer that gets these studios would be in a very strong negotiating position to then go to AT&T and work out a situation sort of along the lines of EA and Disney did with Star Wars, and basically go, okay, we've acquired these studios now. It would make the most sense because they have decades. In the case of TT Games particularly, who obviously do all the Lego stuff, they have, you know, over a decade's worth of experience working with Warner Brothers related IP, and then obviously different properties on top of that. And then with Rocksteady and WB, they've literally spent their entire, you know, studio life, apart from that one urban response riot control game that Rocksteady did before Asylum. All of that has been built around DC Comics, which is obviously Warner Brothers. So I think if Microsoft or any prospective buyer were to get these studios, it makes business sense for them to then go on and negotiate with AT&T to get those properties, which again, I do think leaves open the possibility that if this deal does go through, because it's very early days right now, and that you could have a console exclusive DC Comics universe, which makes me want to cry, because now I know what the pain that the Xbox owners would feel when Spider-Man went to PlayStation, and all those fears of, you know, monopolies or whatever. How do you feel about it?
It makes me, well, there's a couple of things, because it makes me think of when Microsoft bought Mojang, and all of a sudden everyone was like, oh my god, they've bought Minecraft, that's it, that's the profit margin sewn up, it's just going to be on Xbox and whatever. But it wasn't. You know, Microsoft are very much platform agnostic. If you look at, like, you know, Phil Spencer, little spinster Phil, his general sort of mandate for, you know, he wants to make games as accessible to everybody as much as possible, hence why they've invested in streaming technology and Game Pass and whatever else. And so with the Minecraft acquisition, like, you know, that didn't result in platform exclusivity, and I think that'd be a weird shift if they suddenly bought up all these beloved IPs and all of a sudden they were only on Xbox. It would make the most cold hard business sense ever, but I think that would clash with their ideology, their ethos, the thing that they've built a brand on since the Xbox One fell apart under Don Matrick. Phil Spencer's just came in, been nice, warm and lovely man, just sort of saying, just come on, we'll just hug it out, it's fine. I think if they suddenly started, you know, going exclusive, it would be weird. But that's the thing that stands out as well, is that Microsoft are the only platform holder in the stakes for this. If it was EA, Take-Two or Activision Blizzard, they'd still have to keep everything multi-platform to make as much money as possible. So that side of it is quite interesting, or quite fascinating. But yeah, the superhero side of it, like, yeah, could you see a future where like Spider-Man and Marvel gravitate more towards PS4? I mean, the Avengers game, I don't know if the Avengers game is exclusive, I should know that.
It's not.
It's not. I didn't think it was. Yeah. But obviously Spidey is, and it's like, if all of a sudden Warner Brothers, Batman, the DCEU style stuff is all of a sudden on Xbox, that's a really weird way to go.
Again, I think people shouldn't underestimate or overestimate or whatever the idea that, you know, these properties could be system sellers. I think I speak probably for a bunch of dorks when they said that when Spider-Man was announced to come for the PlayStation 4, I think I'd already, what was that? Was it 2016 that was announced? 2016.
Came out in 2017.
I'd already had a PlayStation 4 for about 2 years at that point. But I think if I didn't, that would have been, you know, I would have had to have gotten a PlayStation at that point, because that kind of game is unmissable to me. And I also think that if anyone is, you know, very invested in a particular IP that belongs to Warner Brothers, Microsoft shouldn't, and this, you know, they should stop being Microsoft and be micro hard and just go for it and get them, because like I think any exclusive title like that, you know, regardless of criticisms regarding monopolies, that would be a system seller. That would be a huge get for them, and I hope it doesn't happen. As someone who has a vested interest in PlayStation and wants to be able to play, you know, your Batmans, your Mortal Kombats, your whatevers, even then, could you imagine what it would be like to have Mortal Kombat be Xbox exclusive, for Batman to be Xbox exclusive? That would be such a huge win for them, especially given that, you know, the previous generation, Microsoft haven't had the best luck with console exclusives. I don't think that's too controversial.
Well, that's another thing. That's another side to it as well, is that they have a terrible first-party lineup right now. Like, we're kind of looking to the July event for them to sort of kickstart a bunch of new IPs. Because, you know, even like Senua with Hellblade 2, like all of a sudden Senua is an iconic Xbox character because there's so few of them now. You know, like, obviously Master Chief is still doing the rounds, but I feel like he's this kind of old war dog who keeps getting like dragged out for one
like
more
Sam
fight.
Fisher, please.
Kind of like Sam Fisher, yeah, who just
I finished the fight 10 years ago. Put me away.
But he literally did as well. He finished the fight 16 years ago. And yeah, it's that sort of thing where it's like, well, could Microsoft just buy a beloved IP, you know, and make them first party by default, because they just buy their way through everything? Again, I think that sort of clashes with the ethos that Phil Spencer I keep calling him Phil Spencer. Little Spinster Phil. I think that sort of clashes with the ethos that he's set up. But that is another fascinating prospect where you have Sony curating this like body of first-party titles that they want everybody to come in on. And obviously Spider-Man shares fandom elsewhere, but it's totally worked for them. Could that also work on the Microsoft side where they just sort of pay their way into everyone's good graces? I think that'd be a really weird move. And all of a sudden, if the Xbox library was all of a sudden made up of Mortal Kombat, Harry Potter, and Batman, you'd get people in, but it wouldn't really be Xbox. It would be they're cashing in on everyone else's sort of work. So I don't know. If like something like Batman was Xbox exclusive, do you think you'd fork out, or would that just be such an insulting move?
Given the price point of the next gen consoles, I've never been one to invest in more than one console per generation.
This guy.
I know you do, and I think if the the mooted price point for these consoles is as expensive as it is, I don't think I'd be willing to do it this time. However, I'd have to just admire them from a distance or whatever. Not that, I mean, it would test my resolve. Like, I would be there just kind of being like, oh, but the thing
Batman's
at the end of the day
really
is... Exactly, but the thing at the end of the day is, PlayStation, despite, not being involved in discussions for WB games, they still have at the end of the day the stronger first party lineup, like you said, and Microsoft are almost playing catch up right now. And even necessarily, these characters and properties don't have a brand synonymy with Microsoft. You could definitely see them trying to make that a thing, such as when Sony did with the PlayStation font and Spider-Man, like 2 decades ago or whatever, and what they're doing with Spider-Man now. And it just remains to be seen how AT&T move forward as well, I would say, because obviously it's their discretion at the end of the day who they give the license to. So loads of different companies will be batting for those licenses as well. So I'd expect anyone who's interested in acquiring the studios, if they then fail to get them, to maybe also at the same time be like, well, maybe we can get these. But again, at the end of the day, anyone who gets to the studios, I would say, is in a very strong position to then go on and get a Batman or a Harry Potter or a Lord of the Rings or a Mortal Kombat or something along those lines. Yeah,
and also, I mean, another residual sort of part of this is that either way, Warner Brothers are getting out of gaming. They want to get rid of their gaming division, which they were the ones who pushed for microtransactions in Mortal Kombat. They're the ones who sort of helped butcher Shadow of War. So there's that whole side of it too. But yeah, let us know what you think down in the comments below. How do you see it playing out? Which company would you rather take a hold of these IPs? And I guess what's your dream scenario and your nightmare scenario for how things might go? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
And I've been Ewan from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye. Feels weird to say .com. WhatCulture.com.